Today we will begin work in the Volume 1 workbook. Please turn to page 10 in the workbook to the key concept page for section 1-1. Today's lesson will focus on integers and their opposites. An integer is any number that is not either a decimal or a fraction. However, numbers like 6.0 and 4 out of 4 are examples of integers because they can be simplified to whole numbers. So 6.1 is the same as 6, and 4 out of 4 is the same as 1. So an integer is any whole number and includes 0 and negative numbers. The number line provided under the key concept at the top has many integers written along the bottom of the number line. In the center is 0, and moving toward the right are positive integers. And again, starting from the middle here at the value 0 and moving to the left will be your negative integers. Today we want to focus on opposite integers and how opposite integers can be combined to make 0. So in the example at the top, starting at 0, we have a value represented by this arrow of positive 4. We also have an arrow right above, same value, but going in the opposite direction, and that represents a negative 4. And the result, when you put the two together, moving to the right 4 and then moving to the left 4, results in a value of 0. It's kind of like if you're playing a board game. 0 would represent home. And maybe you roll and you get to move forward. And during your next turn, you roll again, but you move backwards 4. You're going to end up back at start. Let's go ahead and move to the Do You Understand section. Number 1, the essential question asks, how are integers and their opposites related? Take a moment and write down this information. So an integer and its opposite are the same distance from 0, but they're on opposite sides of 0. Again, the positive values move to the right and negative values would move to the left. Number 2. In your workbook, this is in color. Reasoning. In order for an atom to have a 0 charge, every proton, which has a charge of positive 1, must be matched with an electron, which has a charge of negative 1. A helium atom, as pictured, has 2 protons and 2 electrons. Explain why a helium atom has 0 charge. So again, here's its 2 protons, and here are the 2 electrons. Take a moment and write down that information. So the charge is going to be 0 because the two positive 1 charges represented by a 2, which is positive 2, and the two negative charges represented by negative 2 combine to make 0. One way to demonstrate this, if you have your two positive charges and then you line up your negative charges underneath it, you can pair them up and cancel them out. So one positive cancels out one negative charge. Number 3, explain how to use a number line to show that opposite quantities combine to make 0. Whenever using a number line to demonstrate a math problem, you're going to start at 0. 0 is your beginning point. You will then move to one quantity on the number line. From that point, plot the opposite quantity by moving the same number of units in the opposite direction. The final location on the number line is 0. Again, if we look back up at the top at the key concept, this first bottom arrow, so when you have multiple arrows, the first one will be lower. That would be your first number, okay? So starting at the 0, we're going to move to the positive 4. We're going to then pick up our pencil and start a line above it, and you'll see that this arrow goes to the left in the opposite direction since we have a negative 4, and negatives move in the left direction. And we end up back where we started at the value 0. Okay, moving on to the practice problems under the Do You Know How. Question number 4. Marcus dives from the surface of the ocean to a reef 18 meters below sea level. What integer represents Marcus's location relative to the surface? How far does Marcus have to go to return to the surface? So sometimes when you're working with a math problem, it's best to draw a picture to help you understand the information. So we're going to go ahead and draw a squiggly line representing the surface of the water. The surface is represented by a depth of 0 feet. We're working in meters, so 0 meters. So that would be your surface. That's where you begin. In this example, the diver is going to go down 18. So we're going to go down. Here's the diver. I'll just draw a little stick figure. Okay, so he dived down 18 meters, which is at a depth of negative 18 meters. So if he dived down 18, he's at a location of negative 18 meters. How far does he have to go up to return to the surface? Well, he'd have to go back up 18 meters. So the first answer is negative 18 meters. And the second answer is 18 meters. So they're opposites. Negative would be down, and then the positive is going back up to the surface. Okay, number 5. The temperature of the water in Emily's fish tank was 78 degrees Fahrenheit on Sunday. The water temperature changed by 3 degrees on Monday, -3. So there's a drop. And then by 3 degrees, which is a +3, so it's an increase on Tuesday. What integer represents the temperature change of the water from Sunday to Tuesday? What was the water temperature on Tuesday? So if we just we'll draw a vertical line here to represent our thermometer. Since we're working with high positive numbers here, we'll put our 0 degrees Fahrenheit here toward the bottom. And up here, we're going to use 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So that was on Sunday. Okay. Now the temperature changed by the next day, 3 degrees. So we're moving down, right? 3 degrees, which would bring us to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now notice that when you have a drop, we're still at a positive degrees Fahrenheit. Now that was on Monday. On Tuesday, the temperature goes up because it was a +3. So again, Monday we dropped down to 3 degrees, and then the next day we go up 3 degrees. So we're back where we started. So the answer here would be, what was the overall change from Sunday? Again, this is Monday, back to Tuesday. So the overall change is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, because there was no change. There was change in between, but then we end up back where we started. And the temperature on Tuesday, back to that 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 6. The scores of players on a golf team are shown in the table. The team's combined score was 0. What was Travis's score? So we see that Celia was -3, Janine +3, Sammy 1, Ted 4, and Travis is unknown. So based on their scores and that their combined score was 0, we need to figure out what Travis's score was at the end of the game. So the first thing I'm looking for are opposites, because opposites will result in 0. Now I have 2 positives, and if I combine my positives, I get a +5. So now we have to think, what would Travis's score need to be, knowing we already have 0 here with Celia and Janine's combined score, okay? If Sammy and Ted's combined score is 5, well, we would need Travis to have scored -5. And then we would combine both Sammy and Ted's scores combined with Travis's score to get 0. And 0 and 0 is 0. So Travis's score was -5. This concludes the notes for section 1-1 relating integers and their opposites. Have a great day.